Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Well, National Knife Day fell on a Sunday this year, and so I really wasn't able to participate much online. However, I was able to make a purchase, and I actually bought about 3 knives on National Knife Day, and this is one of the knives I picked out, and it showed up a couple days ago, and well, let me show you what it is. It's right here. Genuine Stag Baby Butterbean, number 05537. So a 52-132 stainless steel. And as you can see here, it was made back on December 11th, 2024. This was a knife that I have been thinking about getting for the longest time, but I've had a bad experience when it comes to Case canoes and also the Case Butterbean. They just haven't been what everyone else seems to get. It's like my luck of the draw. I always get the one that just didn't quite make the mark, at least in my opinion. And the reason these knives are out, and I want to show them to you first, is these are my other Case knives that are in genuine India sandbar stag. This was one of the first ones I picked up, and you can see that the stag isn't a perfect match on either side, but the thickness is pretty close to about the same. And these are not easy to find anyway, and I bought it well after it was no longer available, so it was almost like take what you can find. You know, this is the Scout Junior or Junior Scout with the can opener there. You got the little cap lifter screwdriver over on this side. You got the nice little punch, and then the Spear Master blade. Really nice knife. I was collecting these, and I'm still trying to collect them, but they're very difficult to find. 3 3/8 inch frame. And then this is another one that I got, and as you can see, not exactly the same on either side. I don't expect the Stag to look like the same on both sides. I understand that basically they've got the Stag cut and then it's laying out there, and they're just getting a piece that fits on both sides. But as you can see, the thickness is pretty even on both sides. This one definitely gets a little skinny in the middle there. Same on this side a little bit too, but very nicely done. This is, like I said, a number 32 Stockman. So you got the clip blade, the nice sheep foot blade, and then the pin blade. Like I have mentioned before, this is like my favorite Case Stockman, the number 32 pattern. Then I've got a little equal end pen knife here, also in Stag, and this has a pin blade on here. And well, let's see if we can see what we have here. This is for, I think, the 100th anniversary. There we go. Yeah, it's one of the Centennial knives. Yeah, so got the little blade edge there for it being a Centennial knife. What's the number on this one? Don't know the number. Zoom in a bit. We should zoom in on this one anyway. Yeah, so a 5279, again in stainless steel. And you can see here, this is the 100th anniversary. Again, the Stag is not exactly the same on either side, but the thickness is pretty good, and it's nicely burnt and everything. And then the little copperhead. I really like the baby copperhead. I should do I don't think I've done a video on baby copperheads yet, but I probably should. I'm gonna zoom back out a bit here. So here's the baby copperhead. And you notice this is the copperhead end. You notice how it's bent up here. It's a 2-blade knife. It's an opposite end. Well, it's too small to be a jack. At least I would say it's too small to be a jackknife. So it is just an opposite end pen knife going on here. Got a clip blade here. Case also makes them with a Warncliffe blade. And then the secondary blade on here is a pin blade. That is typical. What you usually see on it is a pin blade and then a clip blade, but sometimes a worn clip blade. And again, a little chunkier here on the Stag, but fairly well matched, at least in thickness and stuff, and also even somewhat into the cut into the bone there. I like all of these. They're pretty cool. That brings us to the latest right here. This is the one I just picked up. Yes, I have already looked at it, but I wanted to show you these first and then go into this one, because this is the second time I have bought a Case Butterbean. And the second time that I open the box, I look at it and I go, these are the knives that make people hate Case. You know, now I like all of these. They're not perfect, you know, I know that. And to a degree, I really like this one too, but it's like, why, Case? Why did you do this? Let me get it out and we'll take a look at it. So here's the front side of the knife. See that? Nice looking piece of Stag. No one can argue that that isn't a nice looking piece of Stag. The color of it is really nice and everything else. Flip it over. Again, not a bad looking piece of Stag. However, why? Why is this side perfectly flat and then you got a big bump over here? And I know the first things people are going to say is, well, because of the shield there. Maybe, but this is also relatively flat and you got a shield here too. This is relatively flat and you got a shield here too. So that's not an answer. That and if you're going to have this side bump out like that, why not put a similar type of Stag on the opposite side so you have a nice swell on both sides, as opposed to one side being flat and the other side having a big old bump in it? It's like a magician's knife, you know what I mean? The two sides are like polar opposites almost, especially considering how much they had to grind down here to get this to fit. Why didn't you grind off the back side of the bone of the Stag? You know, why didn't you thin this out a bit so that this would have fit a little better and you could have had a little more of the character of the bone in place? Why did you smooth it this way? Notice how the shield is sitting in there all crooked and everything. So I don't get why they did that. I mean, it looks nice. It's, you know, if you're just looking straight on at it, you would say, that's a nice looking knife. Flip it over and you say, that's a nice looking knife. But when you look at it like that, it's like, what happened? Why is this a Quasimodo knife? Why has it just got a hump on one side? You know what I mean? I just don't understand that. The blade action is okay. It's been sitting in the box for 8 months, so the lubricant might have dried up a little bit, so I'm going to have to clean out and flush it a little bit. But the blade is nice and tight, so the build quality is not bad at all. And even the look, well, this one's a little loose, but not enough to complain about, especially the way Case determines if a blade has blade wobble. They'll grab the knife like so and they'll shake it and see if they feel if there's any wobble in it. That's not the way anyone in the knife community checks. The way the people in the knife community check is they take the blade and they see if it wobbles. And this has an ever slight wobble in it. Not enough that I would complain. I could probably tighten it if I wanted to. But the thing that gets me is I don't know why, and because this is such a small frame too, you know, this is 2 3/4 inches long, you know what I mean? 2 3/4 inches. That is not a lot of space. So if this was this long, you might have been able to get away with that bump by the thing and then have everything kind of level out. But then it would have almost looked like just bone, because you'd have been smoothing out all the character of the stag. So I don't get what they were doing, or why they have two pieces of stag that are so mismatched. You know what I mean? That's what really aggravates me about this. They could have also, this side doesn't look as bad. See what I mean? Look, see there? That doesn't look as bad because of the way they rounded the edge here. But on the top, they didn't round the edge. This is straight across, and you could see distinctly there. That's a lot thicker. It's like 2 to 3 times thicker than the backside. And I don't know why they did that. Does it feel funny in my hand? Not really. And because I'm left-handed, that swell is in a nice place. Yeah, I would love, if I were right-handed, I would want that swell on the backside of the knife, you know, when I'm cutting or something. It would feel better on the backside of the knife. In this case, it feels good in my left hand. It's almost like a left-handed Butterbean. That's the way I would look at this. And I'm debating, I really am. I don't know if I'm going to keep it and just throw it into the Stag collection and hang on to this so I can look at this and go, remember, this is what you got with the Case Butterbean. And this is the second time you were disappointed. Last time you sent the knife back for good reason. The bone had shrunk so much that there were gaps everywhere. And it was a new knife, so why not send it back? This one, well, if nothing else, it's going to lay flat in a display case. I can at least say yay for that, but I don't get it. This will almost be like the reminder, do not buy another Case Butterbean unless you actually have it in your hand and you can actually see it, because this is what you might end up with. Something that is not what you were hoping for. I'll put it that way. And a knife that actually feeds into the Case hate out there. There was no reason for this knife to be made the way Case made this. These two sides of the two slabs of Stag should have been of close to an equal thickness. That's what most people are at least looking for. I think most people can understand that the Stag might look different from side to side, but they do want it to be kind of the same thickness at least. Anyway, with that said, I will let you go and talk to you again soon. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.